Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to Sports Time HQ. I am your host, Fernando. Joining with me today is, in fact, my great co-host, Gary. Gary, how you doing today?
Doing pretty good, Freddie. I'm excited after a big, fun draft that we had this past weekend and excited to go over some stuff.
A lot of reactions we're going to have. Obviously, we had live reactions of the first round for anyone who watched. Appreciate it. But we are still going to be talking about the first round prospects as well. But not only that, the whole entire draft. We'll be talking about some great surprises, some great defensive player steals, some landing spots for some fantasy position players, key moments of the draft, and one of the biggest slides, I would probably say, in the history of the NFL.
Ever.
But some quick news and notes. The undrafted free agents, they are usually last to get the love. We're going to give them the love first.
Awesome.
If I'm correct, Shiloh Sanders, he managed to find himself a home. He right after the draft, he signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. Happy for, or I'm sure Dion's pretty happy that both of his kids ended up finding a roster somewhere. So that's awesome.
I think the Vikings are probably one of the people who signed a lot of undrafted players. I think they signed 12 undrafted free agents. Some teams aren't even on the list of signing any. A lot of wide receivers went. Tennessee Titans, they did sign Xavier Restrepo, wide receiver out of University of Miami. So for anyone who doesn't know, that was Cam Ward's favorite target. Now they questioned his speed because he ran a 4.83 40 yard dash at the combine, which doesn't impress you if you're a wide receiver looking to join the team. Doesn't impress the GMs. But he managed to find himself a home, and he found it playing with his former teammate, with Cam Ward.
Yeah, no, good for the both of them. That's pretty cool. But I mean, I'm a big college guy, and you know that. And he was one of the best wide receivers in the nation. And it's crazy to see that he went undrafted. Just adds to what I think is overrating the NFL Combine. I don't think obviously the faster the better, or you want your guys to be faster, but I think that production just goes out the window for a lot of these teams when you're not like the number one, number two guy in this draft at your position. Makes absolutely no sense to me. But I watched him carve up college defenses, and he didn't even get drafted. So, like I said, I think the NFL Combine is starting to get a little bit out of hand. But good for the both of them because they're familiar with each other. So if Restrepo is able to get on the field, then they'll be pretty good together.
And obviously, there is a lot of room to improve on that depth chart for the wide receiver core because of how not so good it is. So there's a chance for him to really make an impact on that. He just needs to he's got a long shot, but again, he's got a chance to try and build up his repertoire in the training camp, really. Moving forward to some other undrafted free agents. Gary, you're more of a college guy than I am. How in the world do you say this quarterback's name? DJ last name?
DJ Uiagalelei.
Uiagalelei?
Uiagalelei. Yeah, close enough.
DJ U. He signed with the Chargers. Now, obviously, he was, I believe, a former 5-star recruit. And going to the Los Angeles Chargers, again, he's not going to be a starter. He's going to be backing up Justin Herbert. But it'd be nice to see him as a quality backup if he can manage to stay on the roster.
He won't even do that. I remember when he was at Clemson and he was backing up Trevor Lawrence. Everybody thought, or like he was coming after Trevor Lawrence, everybody thought that, he was going to be the next biggest thing because he was a 5-star. I think he might have been the number 2 quarterback in this class. And he was just horrible. And Clemson was like this big hyped up team. And I think they ended up having like 5 losses or something like that. Way worse than they were supposed to be. Then he goes to Oregon State and he's like okay. He gets by, definitely not living up to the 5-star hype. Then he goes to FSU and he gets benched halfway through the season. He was not great. I don't expect him to stay on that roster, but hey, we've heard some stories of players being able to turn it around once they make it to the league and get the NFL training. Maybe he can do the same.
I mean, again, he does just have to stay on the roster. That is the one thing he needs to do the most, especially because he is an undrafted free agent. So it's not like they spent really much of anything on him.
Yeah, right.
Jake Brenningstool, he managed to go to the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, obviously, we know Travis Kelce is getting up there in age. I do believe the Kansas City Chiefs did not draft a tight end, if I do believe so. So this is a guy to keep an eye on because I know I ranked him, I think 5 or something. I don't even know if you had him top 10. But again, he is a guy to just keep in mind. He's not a guy that like stands out so much, but he's a guy that could be the next successor of Travis Kelce if he can get playing time and if he can progress. Again, Travis Kelce probably has me 1-2 years left, but just got to keep an ie on. Just an eye to keep an eye on. I don't know if you have anyone else off the top of the list. The Browns did not sign anyone from free agency, the undrafted. Neither did the Patriots. I'm trying to go through the list.
Well, that's not true. That's not true. I don't know where you got that from. Both teams got a couple signings.
Oh.
Yeah.
Did I miss it?
I mean, personally for the Browns, there were 2, maybe 3 guys that I remember, but nobody that I can really even remember their name. Honestly, there's a safety from Pitt. But you guys signed tight end G. Scott Jr. from The Ohio State University. So
no way.
Nice little signing right there. Good job, guys.
I must say, there's a lot of Buckeye that came out of this draft.
Dude, there was 14 that were drafted, which is one off. 15 is tied for the most of all time. I don't know by what school or when, but if we had one more guy go, we would have tied it.
I mean, it was just Buckeye after Buckeye. And I mean, fair enough, you guys did just win the national championship. So at least we know that there is stars on that team, or at least that's why they won it. But still, I mean, there was a lot. Like the first round and then the first 3 rounds anyways, it was just so many different Buckeyes coming off the board.
Yeah. Like I said, you guys signed one in undrafted free agency. I think there were like 3 more, including him, that went in undrafted free agency. So really we had like 17, 18 guys that ended up finding a roster this weekend.
Wow. Congratulations to all the Buckeyes.
If you want to go to the NFL, you know where to go.
Go to Ohio State. Go to Ohio State.
Yes, sir.
Well, let's go into the biggest surprises of this draft. I do want to quickly mention someone that has yet to sign a team is Isaiah Bond, who was a guy that was projected to go around maybe late the first. That was as high as his stock was to day 2 pick. And due to a lot of the allegations going around, he ended up not even being drafted at all. And, you know, a lot of teams sign right after the draft and he's not even on the team yet. So it's a thing to keep an eye out on because he was an impressive player in college. But again, this is a big concern. But if he gets dropped, all the allegations, he has a good chance of signing with the team.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a possibility. You know, I'm hoping all these guys that have possibly had any issues in the past can get past those issues because a lot of players, you know, even that did get drafted, like Mike Green, their stock is taking a toll. And I think that they can be good players in this league, but they just need to keep their head focused on the football field.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. So the biggest surprises. I will mention quickly, this is not my biggest surprise, but I will say Quinn Ewers out of Texas, again, another former 5-star recruit. He did find a home, but he found a home in the 7th round. 7th round of this NFL draft. He was the last quarterback to come off the board being drafted. Now, he was a guy that could have probably went back to college and probably improved his draft stock tremendously had he went back to college. But he turned down an NIL deal and all the opportunity and decided go to the draft thinking he was at least a day 2 pick. Turns out he is none other than the very last quarterback in this draft, which is crazy, but his landing spot has potential, I will say, with the Dolphins. Obviously, Tua's injury is always a big concern. God forbid he goes down again. It could be the end of his career. Who comes up? Quinn Ewers. So he is a guy, obviously we're not praying for Tua's downfall, but if he does struggle or something happens like that again, Quinn Ewers is the next man there. And there is a potential for him to take over and maybe be successful.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen numerous backup quarterbacks in the Dolphins system the past few years. So there's definitely the possibility that he gets on the field and he'll have a chance to showcase some of his talents, whatever that may be. But yeah, no, you're exactly right. If he had gone back to college, we're probably talking about him being a top 2-round pick. I mean, I think he'd easily be a first rounder. But would it be with Texas? I don't know, because they have Arch Manning coming up, and
yeah, he would probably transfer.
I think they're kind of rolling with him, but yeah, there was reportedly a mystery team that offered him like
Ohio State.
$10 million. I don't think it was, to be honest with you. But there was reportedly a mystery team. I think it was Oregon that offered him around $10 million NIL to come and play for the year, and he declined it to go to the NFL, which is at the moment not looking like a great idea. But again, maybe he gets an opportunity and he makes the most of it.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully he can make the most of it. I will go into my biggest surprise, and my biggest surprise was actually the quarterbacks in general of this draft. I mean, I was never so big on these quarterbacks in this year's draft, but the quarterback slide was tremendous. I mean, it was just quarterbacks were sliding all over the place, and players that should have been drafted above certain players were not. And for instance, a guy that we talked about just a week before the draft was Tyler Shuck, and how he was a guy that was, again, 26 years old. He's a veteran, now you could say he's a college veteran or whatever, but he was so overhyped that I thought he was none other going to be like a day 3 pick. Instead, he becomes the first quarterback off the board in the second round with the number 8 overall pick in that second round. And it was to the Saints, who are in need of a quarterback. The third quarterback off the board is Tyler Shuck. I mean, his dog was very happy because he makes a lot of money and the dog gets a lot of treats and some good treats. So I think he's got to be my biggest quarterback slide, obviously, besides the most important one, which we will name. But I think he's the biggest slide that I've seen, or the biggest surprise.
Yeah, it was actually crazy. I'm sitting here as a Browns fan saying, please don't draft him, because he's a guy whose name I heard a lot of times pop up in the Browns, reporting cast. And I was like, please do not go out and get this guy, because I watched a lot of Louisville games and he was not great. He's old. I think he's 25 going on 26, which is insane for a rookie. And he just didn't look good. So I didn't really get it. And I was driving somewhere on Friday, and I got the tweet that they're drafting Tyler Shuck with the 40th overall pick or whatever it was. And I was like, yes, A, because it's not Shadur, and I want Shadur, of course. And B, we physically can't draft him. So I was very happy with that. I know Saints fans, I went over to their Instagram, their comments are not happy at all. So that was kind of funny to see. But yeah,
as one definitely would not be.
Right, exactly. But definitely a big surprise there as well. But my biggest surprise was the Cowboys drafting well. We usually like making fun of the Cowboys for numerous reasons, one of them being because Jerry isn't the best at drafting at times. I loved their draft. I think a lot of people kind of gave him shade for drafting Tyler Booker with the 12th overall pick. Okay, I guess I get it. But at the same time, you just lost Hall of Famer Zach Martin, and you lost left tackle Tyron Smith 2 years ago, who just retired. I think your biggest thing is getting an offensive lineman. The Cowboys run in the trenches, and I think the best way to do that is to take what a lot of people, including me, believe is the best guard in the draft. Then you pick up a guy, Donovan Ezaraku, who a lot of people mocked going in the first round. You take him in the second round. I thought that was a nice steal. And you even got Siobhan Ravel in the middle of the third round, somewhere around there, I believe. Another guy who was getting possible first round mock hype. And at the moment is a project, but I think can be a very good corner in this league. I loved how the Cowboys drafted this weekend.
Yeah, and again, I can't knock that as well, because as much as I don't like the Cowboys, Tyler Book is a great pick. And you took the two next round, the day 2 picks, who were mocked multiple times for the first round. And they ended up falling just in perfect place with the Cowboys. The Cowboys basically hit all their needs. Their biggest needs was running back, edge, corner, and offensive guard, and a wide receiver. But the wide receiver isn't all that too crazy. Maybe if T-Mac was there, they would have went T-Mac in the first. But again, they hit 4 of their 5 biggest needs. And I think this is important because they can always find a wide receiver. They can always sign a wide receiver if they want to. They could trade for one. There's so many wide receivers out there. Again, you already do have a top tier wide receiver 1 there. And you've been known to find some decently wide receiver 2s, just find them randomly. Brandon Cooks coming in, Michael Gallup coming in. I mean, you found those in the past. I'm sure it's not going to be hard to find another one. But you've hit those top needs. So I will say it's actually a big surprise because we've known them to do some wacky things in the draft in the past.
Exactly.
One of the biggest slides. Now, I kind of intertwined them both because I said the quarterbacks in general in this draft was the biggest surprise, but they're also the biggest slide because we'll go right into Shedeur on this one. And Shedeur, for anyone who doesn't know, was supposed to go as high as number 2 to the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland Browns traded their pick. Travis Hunter was the guy there at number 2 and went to the Jacksonville Jaguars. So was Shedeur going to get drafted at number 5? No. Cleveland decided to take Mason Graham. Then we got to Pittsburgh. They didn't take the quarterback. Giants traded up in the first. They took Jackson Dart. And then just before we ended the show, the live stream, Gary and I both said, okay, Shedeur is going to go number 33. And then next thing you know, I'm about to go to bed, and I look at the draft, and Shedeur is not off the board. And then Tyler Shuck comes off the board. I mean, it was just so insane. And then I wake up the next morning because obviously we have a 6-hour time difference. I wake up the next morning. I check out who the quarterbacks are that came off the board in day 2. Dylan Gabriel.
Yeah, I don't know.
Is the next Cleveland successor at the time. At the time. And mind you, I don't know if you saw the interview because he's from Oregon. He mentioned, I'm not really a big cold climate type of guy.
Right? Oh, yeah. I did see that, yeah.
So Cleveland saw that. They were shaking in their boots, and they had to take another quarterback. And ironically, the next quarterback off the board from pick 30 in round 3 to pick 6 in round 5 ended up becoming Shedeur Sanders. The media team and Shedeur Sanders, they were waiting for a while. They were recording him the whole time. Also, crazy that some Ole Miss guys prank called the poor guy. It's funny, but I feel so bad because, you're waiting. It's day 2 now, and you think you got it, but now you don't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it was messed up because he was around his family, and all the family was all hyped, and they all gathered around, and it just was fake. So that definitely sucks. And I don't know, maybe we will talk about this later, maybe not. I'm guessing not because this probably would have popped up in the notes. But the NFL is currently looking into that and investigating how in the hell did these guys get that number, because that was just supposed to be distributed between NFL executives. So obviously some kind of funny business happened there. But
wasn't the Giants' NFL executive daughter or something go to Ole Miss?
I heard that. But the guy that was did you see the video of the 2 kids themselves?
Yeah.
So the kid all the way on the left is Jeff Ulbrich's son, who's currently the defensive coordinator of Saints.
Oh, interesting.
The Falcons, something like that. He's currently the defensive coordinator of the Falcons. Yeah. So,
I did not know that one.
a lot of people are finding stuff out, but obviously, regardless, something happened. But I also think that's what happened in this draft. I think something between, I don't know if it's the owners or the general managers or the coaches, I think there's some form of collusion going on in this draft, in all complete honesty. Like, I'm not even
Yeah.
joking, because
Yeah.
you've never seen this, and for good reason, because never in the NFL draft has a guy who's been mocked round one, late round one,
Number
but
2 overall. At one point,
right,
number 1 overall, too.
right. But yeah, exactly. At one point, number one, but for the most part, just round one as a whole drops out of round one. Okay, whatever. That happens sometimes. Guys slide all the
Yeah.
time. Then doesn't get picked on day two, and a whole round four goes by. And if we didn't trade up into the fifth, who knows if he would have gotten selected at all? I mean, I'm guessing we would have picked him with our fifth or sixth round pick if he was still there. But they jumped the Eagles because the Eagles were a rumored team to maybe take a flyer on him, because at the moment they have Tanner McKee, and who really knows with their backup quarterback situation. But they would just be drafting him on value. There has to be something going on where these guys maybe wanted to get at Deion Sanders, or wanted to get in the kid's head and say, listen, you guys get way too much power and saying this stuff now. This is how it's going to be. Now, I don't know how that was gone about, but I truly think that something had to have happened here, because there is absolutely no way that this should have happened. He is way too talented of a player, and no matter how he carries himself, he should not have fallen to the fifth round. And I don't necessarily say that I feel bad for him because he lost out on a lot of money, because he's a Sanders kid. Like, they're set for life. But in another instance where, this happened to somebody else, that's a difference of $40 to $50 million.
Crazy.
So that's an unbelievable difference. He's getting just about $1 million a year on this contract. But I saw Mason Graham's contract where we took him fifth, and he's getting like $45 million. So, and towards the end of that top 10 is like 10 to $15 million. So it's a huge difference in money. Again, those kids are well off, like, they're fine, but you gotta feel for the kid. Like, I mean, this should just not have happened.
I mean, I also heard another possible the reason why also is, obviously it just unfortunately ended up becoming Shedeur Sanders, but also the NIL deal. I heard NIL deals have been playing a big part in this whole situation, and how teams are getting fed up with these NIL deals and all that, and then some. Also heard another rumor that there should be an NIL salary cap for teams in college football, which I wouldn't be minded to see that. At least hopefully it comes within the next year, because I'm trying to write a master thesis on NIL deals. But yeah, I mean, it's just crazy to see how crazy it was. He just kept falling. I mean, it was funny too. I saw memes saying, congrats to the NFL. They actually made every round the most interesting round, because everybody watched. I mean, this must be one of the first years I actually went on and watched day 3. And I'm not and I'm not a person to really go and watch day 3. I'll just follow it on my phone. But I mean, day 2 this year was also one of the most interesting day 2s, because it was so intriguing. But I mean, again, Shedeur, this kind of is wondering what's going to happen next. Was there something? Was he too cocky during the interview? Because at the combine interviews, he was a bit cocky with the way he was talking and everything. But I mean, now he just has to prove it. But there's a lot of quarterbacks on that depth chart, Gary.
Well, yeah. And I mean, again, when I said what I said a few minutes ago, that was not to say that Deion and Shedeur don't have their hands a little bit dirty in this, because, of course, they're probably not the easiest people to deal with at times. But, yeah, no, to go off what you were saying, we have 5 quarterbacks on the roster, but it's going to look a little bit different, because Deshaun's currently injured on his Achilles. He's not going to play at all this year. So he's going to be on the IR, so it leaves us with 4. 3 get a roster spot. I'm assuming Joe Flacco's spot is fine, because just playing off what he did with us 2 years ago. Now that leaves us with Kenny Pickett, Dylan Gabriel, and Shedeur Sanders, and we're taking 2 of them. I think Shedeur and Dylan Gabriel are easily going to get in there. I think we're going to release Kenny Pickett or try to see if someone would trade for him, because there's absolutely no way that you spend a 3rd-round pick on Dylan Gabriel and you're just going to cut him or leave him on the practice squad or whatever. I mean, he's going to have to be he's going to have to be a quarterback 2 or 3 somehow. And I think Shedeur is way too talented to not just make the roster, but also win the quarterback job. Like, he's going to win that quarterback job. Maybe not right away. I think Joe Flacco maybe will start the first few weeks, but at some point in the season, it's going to be Shedeur Sanders' job. He's way too talented to not get the quarterback 1 job. I had him as my best quarterback in this draft, and that's not to say, yay, he's the Browns quarterback. He's, no, I've been saying this for a year. Like, I truly believe he is better and going to be more successful in the NFL than Cam Ward. Now, to what point his success is, defined by what goes on behind closed doors, I don't know. I hope nothing. But if he gets a shot with the Browns and he's the starter there, I really think he's going to prove a lot of people wrong.
Yeah, and I think this could be – I mean, we could look back at this in the next 5 years and say, for instance, Shedeur becomes Shedeur and what he has the potential to be.
This could turn around the franchise.
It could turn around the franchise. If he doesn't turn out to be whatever he was, again, you could just cut him. He was a 5th-round quarterback at the end of the day. But this could turn around the franchise. He could be the next franchise quarterback, face of the franchise, and one of the biggest storylines, like Tom Brady, Brock Purdy coming in, being such a late draft pick, and being able to produce.
Yeah, I really hope it ends up being that way, obviously because I'm a fan, but also just in the sense that if he is able to come in and be that great quarterback, just imagine how well the Browns are set for next year in the draft with 2 first-rounders because they got the Jags first-rounder. And, I mean, I'm honestly hoping that Flacco gets a majority of the year and we don't do good. Yeah. And then, Shedeur comes in maybe halfway or 3/4 through to the season. He looks great. And, we're primed for like 2 top 12 picks with our pick and the Jags pick. And I think we're really in business.
Yeah. And just think you could have had Shedeur and Travis on the same team.
Yes, I know. Well, we could have done a lot of things differently. Like this draft, although I believe outside of Dylan Gabriel, I think we drafted amazing. I really do. I think this draft would look so much different because if we stayed at 2, we could have drafted Travis Hunter. And then with our 2nd-round pick, we could have either gone another wide receiver, but I don't really think we would have done that. I think we would have drafted Judkins there instead of the Jaguar 2nd-rounder because we wouldn't have it because we wouldn't have made that trade. But I think we draft Judkins in the 2nd, grab Harold Fannin in the 3rd like we did, which I love that pick. Dylan Sampson in the 4th, so we have that 2 running back thing. And then we draft Shedeur in the 5th. So I think that would have been literally like it already is, I think, my favorite draft of all time, but that would have been the perfect down to a T draft. But I'm also very happy with the way it went, and I hope the future's bright. That's all I can ask for. I mean, I look forward to a lot of things the Browns give us, and usually it doesn't work out, but this is definitely a step in the right direction. So,
who's that first pick in the 2nd round? Did you ever do research on that guy?
I'll be honest with you, I had absolutely no idea, but I definitely did research after. And he was 2-time All-American, 2-time All-Conference in the Big Ten, and I heard the announcers say that he was like the cutoff for where the linebackers like rapidly drop off. Like after Jalen Walker, then there's him, and then like it's terrible after him. He's looked good from what I've seen. A lot of people like him. But I'll be honest, I didn't expect it because we have JOK. The only thing is he got hurt last year, and I don't know if he's going to ever play football again. So that might indicate that he might never play football again. But they said that it doesn't indicate that. So I hope, everybody's healthy. Everything works out. I'll be honest, I didn't know who he was before, but a lot of people are saying he's good. So we'll see.
Here's an interesting one. Who is your biggest slide? Do you have a biggest slide at all other than Shedeur Sanders?
Yeah, I mean, I put Shedeur there, but if I had to pick one, it would probably just be Mike Green. I mean, to be honest with you, I expected. I mean, we were putting him around like the 15, 16 range, or like like the Falcons at 15 and like Bengals at 17 or 18, something like that. Like that was the range that we had him going. I was confident that he was going to go there at the latest, like the Ravens at 27, or 26, 27, whatever they had. And then it ended up going farther than that. And they got him late in the second round, I think it was. Obviously, we now know that he had those 2, I think it was assault allegations on him, whatever it may be. But as long as he clears that up, like that's the biggest slide of the draft, I think, for me, outside of Shedeur, of course. And again, the Ravens just drafting great, and I hate it, but usually happens.
Also the Eagles.
Malachi Starks, Eagles too. But Malachi Starks was also a slide candidate, in my opinion. I know he was mocked like to go in that range, but he was the best safety in the country. And if he got taken in the first 12 to 13 picks, I wouldn't have been surprised. So
no, I mean, I wouldn't have been surprised either. And you were mentioning Mike Green being the biggest slide. Love that you're going defense on this one because he did slide so much. You mentioned all the way in the second round. It wasn't even until the very end of the second round.
Yeah, right. That's right. Yeah.
It was pick 27 in the second round.
Yeah, crazy.
So, I mean, just think about that. A guy who was supposed to be middle of the first,
almost to the third, pretty much the third.
Pretty much borderline there.
Crazy.
Let's go into the next topic, and that's the best defensive player steal. Now, Gary, of course, sees on our boards, on our doc, what the biggest steals are. And he must really love my pick here. And, I mean, it was just a guy who could have what a lot of people were thinking he could sneak into the first round. And instead, he doesn't even sneak into the first round. He doesn't even sneak into the second round, the third round. He's a day 3 pick. And it's Jack Sawyer. He gets drafted at the 21st overall pick in the 4th round. I mean, he's made one of the biggest plays of college football. When he got that strip sack, return to fumble, 83 yards, touchdown. I mean, that's when he secured the Buckeyes win over Texas in the playoff semifinals. I mean, there was so many rumors that this guy was going to be possibly a candidate to push into the first round. And all of a sudden he falls all the way day 3. I mean, the Steelers getting Jack Sawyer, I think, is a huge win for Pittsburgh. Sucks that it's your division, Gary, but I mean, you can't complain with that pick for them. I mean, they did some great picks this whole entire draft, except for the quarterback position. But Jack Sawyer was definitely a one that they hit on.
Disagree with that. I disagree with that because
they needed a quarterback. They had Mason Rudolph. Hey, Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer. I mean,
I believe I did. I texted a lot of people, but did I text you that's where he was going too? Yeah, I did say that. I said, I'm sure you said, so who's the Steelers quarterback? Rodgers? I go, has to be.
Yeah, you did say Howard was going to.
They've done a ton of homework on Howard, so maybe. So, yeah, I expected him to go there. They were doing a lot of work on him. But talk about Jack Sawyer. I mean, yeah, it was a great pick for them. Again, it sucks he went there, but I'm used to it. So many of the players that I love, for some reason, just get drafted to AFC North rivals. It's annoying,
so
but it happens. Yeah, he's a guy that I didn't expect to go in the first round, but was potentially getting mocked around the Lions range if he were to go in the first round. And it's just the same thing. It goes back to production. Like for me, like the reason why these teams didn't like him is because he's less athletic. He's not fast at all. For a linebacker edge hybrid, he's really not that athletic. So I understand that. But another big thing is he turns 23 in a week, and that completely steers teams away because they want guys who are turning 21 or who just turned 21. You know, they're getting 2 years more out of them than you would be if you were to draft a guy like Jack Sawyer. But I think that's so stupid. Like, let's look at the production that they did in college, and you just had a couple months worth of the biggest stage for college players in a college football playoff where he dominated opposing offensive lines and was stuffing quarterbacks in the turf. So absolutely crazy for him to be, drafted in the 4th round. But yeah, man, Steelers did it good.
Yeah, I'm very, very intrigued that this ended up happening, and it fell all the way to the 4th round for him. But again, another Buckeye off that board.
Mm-hmm.
Who's one of your best defensive player steals of this draft?
Yeah, I mean, I just wrote down Mike Green. Of course, I didn't really know that we were going to talk about him already. But I guess I'll just say one quick thing about him.
Yeah.
This is a guy, like I said, that we expected to go top 15. He led the nation in sacks this year. Of course, or he might have been second. It was him or Ezeraku. They were the top 2. He went to a small school in Marshall, but they played against Ohio State week 2 or 3 of the season, and I actually watched this guy, and he was getting to the backfield with no issues. And we had a pretty solid offensive line. So I was like, what's going on here? Who is this guy? I knew immediately who he was after just searching him up a few times. This guy's been highly looked at for a few years now, and he made the most of it because he was dominating against great teams. And I don't understand how he fell to the 2nd round. I get it that, teams might be worried about his off the field issues. But the thing is, we see this so many times where the best teams take players like that and they end up working out because they're able to get their head on the field. Like, I feel like teams should expect them to. And it just works out so much in their favor because they're getting so much value.
Yeah, and I can't complain with it because if, for instance, all the off the field stuff goes away, I mean, this is a steal for the Ravens. I mean, it's just obviously their offense is pretty much solidified. Their defense, is good, but could use improvement. And this was a huge improvement, especially if that off the field stuff is gone. So I love it. I love this. Jack Sawyer, Mike Green are 2 defensive player steals of this NFL draft. But let's talk about some player draft hopefuls, some guys that were drafted to teams that we hope can make an impact or hope can get off the ground running. And not to go into our guys being possible running backs, but RJ Harvey is a guy for me that I want to talk about because he's not a guy that was a top running back in a way off the board, but also not one like in the rankings to be number 5 in a way. He was a 5th running back to be off the board, and Caleb Johnson, Cam Scatabo was still on the board. I mean, there was some decently named players that probably could have gone higher than Harvey. His pro comp comparison was Bucky Irving, but again, he falls to the Broncos. The Broncos are in desperate need of a running back. Can RJ Harvey get into that role and be a 3-down back to be able to do very well? Again, this is a 2nd round player being drafted. So we do know that running backs who get drafted in day 1 automatically are going to make an impact. Day 2, it's again still a high capital draft pick for teams to draft a running back. So they want to use these guys. But again, he only got a 67 in a grade through ESPN, and his positional rank through ESPN was 11. And so to go at round 2, pick 28 to the Broncos, we know Broncos need a running back, but can RJ Harvey be the guy there to help?
I think he can. He was a very explosive guy at UCF. I think he finished the season on 6 games in a row of 100+ rushing yards and had 2+ touchdowns in 5 of those 6 games. I mean, that is absolutely insane. And, he's playing some solid talent over at UCF. So it's not like he was playing some weak division or anything. But
Yeah.
I think that he can be good. I was honestly expecting you to pick this guy because, man, you were all over whatever running back that the Broncos drafted.
I was, and I really I thought Marion Hampton was the clear-cut guy to go there. And if it wasn't, it was one of the Buckeyes, and it turned out not to be any of them.
Yeah, I mean, it might have been if the draft was a little bit different. But yeah, I like RJ Harvey. He's very explosive, and I think that he can be actually the RB1 in Denver, and I'm excited to see what the future holds for him.
Yeah. Who is player draft hopeful? And a follow-up to that is there biasy?
Sorry, I had to throw it in here. My player draft hopeful is Dylan Sampson, and the reason why I'm hopeful, not just because I'm a Browns fan, of course. The reason why I'm hopeful is because he came off either Achilles or ACL, something like that injury this past season. Before that, he was looking like a top 3 running back in the country, and I think that he can be that, especially due to the fact that we draft Judkins. He's not going to need to be the 3 down back. They're both going to get work. And I think they're both going to be able to showcase their talents a ton. And like I said, with the addition of Quinshon Judkins, there's less that he really has to worry about. So I think that getting him into the system, a 2 running back system, gets a load off his back. And if he's able to return to form, which I think he can, he will be great.
Okay. Now, here's my question. It's not a big draft capital that the Browns spent on him. Is there a way where they still maybe bring in Nick Chubb, and Nick Chubb's still kind of the lead guy there?
Yeah, I don't know if he'll be the lead guy. I really don't think so. But I hope that we bring him back. I hope the time's up for Jerome Ford. It's the time's up for one of them, and I hope it's Jerome Ford over Chubb. I'm sick and tired of watching him. His vision is horrible. So he's done. Something's bigger than football. I just want to bring Nick Chubb back. He wants to come back on like a really small deal. So why has it not gotten done yet? I don't know. That makes me very sad because he is my favorite player. But yeah, I think for the most part, his time's done. But if we bring him back, he's obviously going to get usage. How much? I don't think a lot, because we just spent a 2nd and a 4th round pick on running backs, and they were pretty good in college. So I don't really expect him to do that much if he is to come back. But I hope he does come back. I hope Jerome Ford is the guy that gets booted out of that RB room. But yeah,
fair enough. I actually do like Dylan Sampson. I think his draft stock and for fantasy will definitely fall, but it's definitely something that I'm intrigued to watch because he is a top running back. So the fact that he fell so far, but he went to a team that needs a running back. So I love it. I love that they did hit, which I hate because I want to laugh at your Browns, but I can't because they do good. And when they do good, I mean, I can't complain. But I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued for Dylan Sampson because I do like his potential that he has in the NFL. Another guy I just want to quickly mention is Jaden Higgins. He was the 3rd wide receiver off the board. Sorry, not 3rd, 4th wide receiver off the board. But first in the 2nd round. I mean, Luther Burton didn't even go ahead of him. And
wild.
It was to a team that I didn't expect to really take a wide receiver unless it was Emeka Egbuka, and it was the Texans. And the Texans just took him with the 2nd overall pick. I mean, yeah, okay, he caught 140 passes, 2,100 yards, and 15 touchdowns in 2 seasons at Iowa. But what intrigues me also the most is the pro comparison to him was Nico Collins, which ironically is on the Texans. Nico Collins, if there's 2 Nico Collins on that team, I mean, CJ Stroud should have no problem with that offense, running that offense. Now, can the line stay healthy also? Can the line be improved? I thought they could have went with offensive linemen at that point. I thought they were actually. But I do have some hopeful with Jaden Higgins because I think there's a big depth chart with the wide receiver core there with Nico, Tank Dell. I'm missing another one. There was another guy there that I can't remember off the top of my head. Stephon Diggs was there. Maybe that's who I'm thinking of. But still,
Xavier Hutchinson, maybe? I don't know.
Maybe it was. But again, he's going to be wide receiver 3. Fantasy value, you might value him high, but there's not much production to be there because of Nico and Tank. Now, again, they have faced injuries multiple times. Will that be the problem that we're going to see in the coming future? which then Jaden Higgins, I mean, by all means, he becomes a star and he becomes the wide receiver 1, right?
I mean, we will see. They did end up going tackle only 14 picks later, so I was fine with that. But it was cool also that they grabbed his teammate, Jalen Noel, another solid wide receiver. They ended up getting him as well, so that's a nice duo headed to Houston. But yeah, I mean, I'll be completely honest with you. I feel like a lot of people were kind of gassing this guy up. He is very good, but we'll just have to see what he can do. He will get, a solid role in that Texans offense because they needed a wide receiver. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, he's definitely got to watch out for.
Yeah, I'm going to be intrigued. Before we go into, actually, we will dive right into it. Was there any key moments or any key takeaways from the draft that you wanted to mention? That you had
at first, no, but then I thought about it. Like, I was watching the draft. I was watching this day 2 at one of my friend's houses, and Detroit made a move that I was very, very surprised at. I didn't really like it at all. At pick 6 in the 3rd round, they drafted Isaac Tesla. Now, first off, outside of me not knowing who this was, they ended up making a trade to go jump like 30 spots to get in. They gave up 3 third-rounders. The one that they had, so obviously that, I don't necessarily always count that one. But they traded 2 more in next year's draft to trade up to that spot and draft Isaac Tesla, who, after doing some more research, is a guy that was getting mocked to go anywhere from the 5th to the 7th round. So I was very confused at that. I don't know how many teams were necessarily jumping out of their chairs to draft Isaac Tesla in the early stages of the 3rd round, but they gave up essentially 3 third-rounders to draft him.
I'm gonna be honest. I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I didn't even know the guy that was drafted at that point. I was wondering who the guy was, but I never actually saw the trade details of that trade. Gary, say the trade details one more time. So the Detroit Lions sent how many picks?
So I don't know what team was sitting at the 6th pick of the 3rd round. I honestly don't know. I don't remember. But I remember seeing the Lions trading up, and at first I didn't know what it was for, but I saw what it was for today. It was for their pick in the 3rd round, which is like pick 30. So they are like 35, something like that. They jumped up 30 spots to the number 6 spot. So it was a late 3rd rounder, and 2 third-rounders for next year's draft went to whatever team was sitting at 6. Again, I don't remember. And they drafted what on ESPN is ranked as the 17th best wide receiver in the draft.
Wow.
Crazy.
Wow. I mean, I guess if it ends up being good,
yeah, right.
I guess we can have a problem with it.
Mm-hmm.
But like at the same time, like you're banking, you just spent a lot of draft capital on him. Like if he doesn't pan out, then I mean, there's a problem, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would think so. He got drafted 1 spot behind.
I just think that's just.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I think we lagged for a quick second.
Yeah.
I think that's why. So you can go ahead. I mean, someone was drafted 1 pick ahead.
Yeah.
Or 1 pick.
Yeah. So I
after?
said. So the pick before them was the Patriots, and they drafted Kyle Williams. Maybe that's who they were targeting, but I doubt it because then you would have jumped to the Patriots. But yeah, they drafted Isaac Tesla at pick number 70. He on ESPN is ranked as the 17th best wide receiver. He was the 9th wide receiver, including Travis Hunter, to come off the board. So I don't know if he works out and he's a future top 15 wide receiver in this league, then nobody's going to be looking back and laughing at them for doing it. But at the moment, it's just kind of confusing, right? Like you give up 3 third-rounders to go draft a guy that you probably could have gotten like the 5th.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. The Kyle Williams pick was amazing. I mean, I didn't really know much about him, but I did hear that Kyle Williams is going to be great. Based on one of my friends who works at ESPN, he actually cut the video of the Kyle Williams draft. So everything you saw on College Game Day through ESPN, he actually cut it. And I didn't know much about Kyle Williams, but he told me he watched the tape and everything, and he said the guy's good.
Yeah.
But again, I mean, you could be right. Maybe the Lions were in fact looking at Kyle Williams or something like that, and then they kind of just end up going with this guy and just trading a lot of capital for it. Which again, I don't know why you would, especially they must have saw some. Maybe another team had a higher type of value on Isaac as well. I mean, this was a weird draft. It was a weird draft.
Yeah. I don't know. That's it. I don't know.
I don't know. But I think one of my key moments, and you don't really see this all too much. Quite frankly, I don't think I've ever seen this ever. But it was pick number, if I do believe, 124. And this guy may end up becoming a nobody that we know because I don't really know too much about him. But his name is Baron Sorrell, I believe. I think that's how you say his name, right?
Yep.
Baron Sorrell. So Baron Sorrell, a quick background on him. He ended up actually staying in the green room for all 3 days. And it ended up coming out that he ended up just staying there, and Roger Goodell went out and spoke his name on the podium. And I do have the clip, so I guess we might as well play it. Right?
Just outside of Lambeau Field.
Okay, everyone. Now, this is a special pick, not just because it's the Packers. This young man is here today, so we want to introduce him. So give him a good round of applause. With the 124th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Green Bay Packers select Baron Sorrell, defensive end, Texas.
So Baron Sorrell here on day 3 of the draft.
That's cool.
It's huge. That's cool. You know, a lot of times I hear people say things like, you know, why would you stick around? Why would you worry about not being picked? You know why you do it? Because you get to do this.
Look at this.
Serendipitous.
Honestly, if I had the chance, I would also want to stay there. I think that's just such a heartwarming moment.
Yeah, no, great for him. It probably sucked.
He might turn into nothing.
Right. No, it probably sucked for him the first 2 days. Because that was a long and grueling 2 days for him, I'm sure. But I'm sure it was all worth it on day 3 when he heard his name get called and made that walk through the tunnel. And I saw that he also greeted literally every single Green Bay Packer fan in the crowd. So that was pretty cool.
It's just cool. I'm surprised Shador didn't stay there.
No, he had his own family party.
Yeah, it's true. He was expecting to get drafted in the first, maybe 33. But so let's go into the NFL draft, best quarterback landing spots. I'll start with my guy, and that's Jalen Milroe to the Seahawks. It was a great pick for the Seahawks because Sam Darnold, they have void years in Sam Darnold's contract. So if Sam Darnold doesn't turn out to be what he just was in Minnesota, they can turn to Jalen Milroe. And again, I'm a big Jalen Milroe believer. I think there is a good chance for him in the Seahawks. I think this is a perfect landing spot for him. If I'm correct, they might have jumped the Rams, thinking that maybe the Rams were going to take Milroe as well, because I think Dart also was jumped by the Rams. We think you mentioned the Rams just traded back right after in the first round. Again, Dart and Milroe were two prospects that could be a team that could maybe wait a year to start him. So Milroe's a great spot. For fantasy wise, I like Milroe. He's probably the only quarterback I'm going to target in this year's draft for fantasy.
Dynasty. Yeah, that was pretty cool. Dynasty. That was pretty cool for the exact reason that you just stated. They have those void years in place, I think, for this reason. That's why they ended up taking him relatively early. If they didn't have those in place, I don't think we would have seen him take a quarterback at all. Maybe just a flyer in the 6th or 7th round, but Jalen Milroe is one of the highly touted quarterbacks in this draft, and that's why he's here for me as well, because of those void years. And yeah, you're exactly right. If they don't like what they see from Sam Darnold, they're not going to give him that money at all. They're going to completely get out of that contract, and it may be Jalen Milroe's time in Seattle. But I had to throw in Shedeur for the best quarterback landing spot as well, just due to the fact that he has such little competition, in my opinion, to get the job, especially as a 5th round pick. I think that's
you guys got Flacco, and Dion goes, he's my age.
Right, and he is. So he's not wrong. Yeah. But like I said, essentially, in my opinion, he has absolutely no competition to get the quarterback one spot at some point during the season. So that's why he's here for me as well.
Yeah, I'm again. If it wasn't the Steelers, the Browns were the only other landing spot I personally think would be the best landing spots for Shedeur. Obviously, the Saints didn't need him because they drafted so high on Tyler Shuck, and maybe there were some teams that I did a whole show, whole TikTok about it. But again, they were all backups. The Browns actually have a chance to be a starter. I think the only other team I would have said as well is maybe the Panthers could have got him that low because Bryce isn't, Bryce could have been. But no, I can't complain on the pick. For the running backs, I have 2 quick ones. I'll start with the one. I'll go with both, but I'll start with the one that is kind of less exhilarating, and that's Cam Scatterbo. He's from Arizona State. He was drafted in the 4th round. Now the Giants needed a running back, but the issue is they got Tyron Tracy and Devin Singletary. Devin Singletary is probably going to be the odd man out of these 3. But Tyron Tracy and Cam Scatterbo will be splitting time. It's just, are we going to see a 50-50 split, 60-40, 70-30? I'm going to guess maybe 60-40. It might start with Tyron Tracy and then work to Cam Scatterbo. But again, just to mention, Scatterbo was in the 4th round. Now, it was a high-end 4th round pick. It was a 3rd overall pick. I just want to make sure that, again, day 3 picks are not always highly valued. So Scatterbo could be a great opportunity, but again, there wasn't a lot of draft capital, so he could be on a very short leash, and he could turn into nothing for the Giants.
Yeah, and honestly, I feel like that's what it's going to be. I can't see his game translating to the NFL, to be completely honest with you. As much as I love college, there are levels to these things, and I don't know if at his size he'll be able to play that physical, all up in your face, I'm going to stiff arm you into the ground way that he played at Arizona State. I don't think that's going to work in the NFL. Maybe, here and there, but I don't think he'll be able to make a career off it. Unfortunate because he was such an electric player at Arizona State. And if I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. But I think, I'm a Tyron Tracy guy. I think he's going to take over that backfield, and I hope it works out that way. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just not the greatest landing spot. If he went to the Broncos, I would have loved it maybe, if RJ Harvey obviously wasn't drafted. But again, it's just the Giants don't – they miss Saquon Barkley is really the real deal. My other guy, though, I do want to mention was drafted. He was actually the starter, if I do believe. Again, 1-2 punch, of course. But he was the starter for the Buckeyes, but he wasn't the first Buckeye running back off the board this year. It was Quinshon Judkins, which I love for the Browns. But Travion Henderson, I mean, I would love to Ashton Genty for the Patriots, but Travion Henderson, there's a lot of potential here with him. He was such a high drafted running back. Again, pick 38, which means he's going to be involved in that run game. And how involved? I think it's going to take a lot of pressure off Drake May. And if Ramondre is not Ramondre, Travion's going to be the number one guy by the end of the season on that team.
Yeah. And I think that, honestly, he should have the room just early on. I'll be completely honest with you. He is that talented. And he's the pass blocking running back that everybody wants in their system. And that's the only issue I'm having is I hope he gets that whole room because, there is some talent behind him as well in Ramondre Stevenson. And they used Antonio Gibson a lot last year. So I'm hoping, with Vrabel coming in, he's had Derrick Henry for how many years? I'm not saying Travion's going to be Derrick Henry at all, but I'm hoping he gets a solidified RB1 role that he can use because I think he can be so good.
Yeah, I'm so hyped the Patriots drafted him. I did have Quinshon Judkins ahead of him, which makes sense why he was drafted ahead of him. But again, you can't really compare these two because they're so similar. Like they have such similar values that is exactly why they went 2 picks apart from each other in the second round. Who's your running back landing spot? Best running back landing spot?
Are we back?
Yeah, I don't know. Did we just buffer?
Yeah, for a little bit, for sure. But we're back now.
You buffered, not me, right?
Oh, I don't know. Both of us did on my screen, so I don't know. My bad.
No, you're good. I was just saying, who was your best running back landing spot?
Yeah, I just want plain and simple Ashton Genty. There's no other option for me. Of course, he went 6th overall to the Raiders, but you talk about a guy that's gonna get a huge workload. Yes, he not only is gonna get 20 carries a game, but I look at guys like Kenneth Walker that played with Geno Smith. He got 4 catches a game with Charbonnet and a good, receiving core around him in the Seahawks system. You go to Las Vegas outside of Brock Bowers and somewhat Jacoby Myers, who I am a fan of, but who's going to take those targets from him? Geno Smith is going to love checking it down to Ashton Genty. As much as he's not really that receiving back, I think they're going to breathe that into his game at Las Vegas. And like I said, he's going to be getting 20-plus carries a game. So I think he's going to be a PPR monster. I am totally fine with taking him in redraft leagues as high as maybe even the last pick of the first round.
Yeah, I can't say no to that. I gave you the clear-cut best running back landing spot guy because Genty is one of the best running backs in this NFL draft, given why he was drafted number 6. But he went to a perfect spot that we expected, the Raiders. There is no competition there, and it's just going to be an absolute slugfest with him. He is going to feast on teams, and he is the clear-cut Dynasty 101 rookie pick in this year's draft.
Yeah.
Best wide receiver landing spots. 2 of them in the first round were for me, T-Mac and Matthew Golden. These two, they just landed on not good teams, but good opportunity teams. For instance, T-Mac was the first wide receiver off the board, but he went to the Panthers. The Panthers needed a clear wide receiver 1. If Bryce Young can connect with Terry McMillan, then T-Mac is a gold mine and going to be going forward for not only the Panthers, but also in fantasy. And then Matthew Golden, same thing. Matthew Golden is now the highest paid wide receiver, ironically, on Green Bay now. Jaden Reed, Romeo Dobbs, they don't make more than Matthew Golden, and Matthew Golden is just starting there. If he can complement Jaden Reed to do 1A, 1B, or become the clear wide receiver 1 on that offense, then, after like what 25-year drought almost. I mean, it's 23 years later. You finally draft a wide receiver in the first round. I mean, this is obviously you have big potential for him, and I hope both T-Mac and Matthew Golden can really do well on their landing spots. And for fantasy, I like Matthew Golden. Wasn't a big fan of him before the draft, but landing spot, I do like his landing spot.
Yeah, no, those are both solid options. I'm not the biggest fan of Matthew Golden, but we kind of see these guys in Green Bay, who's going to take that step forward. Well, you go out and spend a first-round pick on Matthew Golden. He's a guy that can go that step forward and be the wide receiver one. Do I think it'll happen? No. But the potential's for sure there. And, you mentioned Tetore McMillan. He was my wide receiver one in this draft. And I think, to be honest with you, out of all the wide receivers in this draft, I think he's going to be the only one that really comes up and bees that true wide receiver one for each respective team that drafted a wide receiver this past draft. So I love that shout as well. I think that, the Panthers weren't really the spot that I was expecting him to go. But if Bryce Young can show what he showed at the end of last season, I think that can.
I think we got another lag. Don't know if Gary's the one that lagged here. It might be. Gary the one that lagged. Because my Wi-Fi looks to be going great. But if he did lag, I'm going to keep the show going. And maybe he restarts. Comes in. I'm not too sure. Tight end wise for the tight end position on the best tight end landing spots. This one is an interesting one because you could say Tyler Warren, you could say Colson Loveland. Are they going to be the clear-cut best landing spots? You could say yes. But Loveland, I don't see Loveland being such a great guy that needed to be drafted by the Bears. And, he just was the first one off the board. I thought there was better position players for the Lions. And then obviously Loveland just ended up being the guy to be drafted. Not a big fan of the landing spot. But Mason Taylor, I want to say, is my best tight end landing spot guy because he fell to the Jets. And the Jets had Tyler Conklin. They don't have him anymore. They don't have a tight end. And I would love to see Justin Fields just feast Mason Taylor. I mean, his pro comp was Zach Ertz, and there's, again, coming from LSU. LSU's had good tight ends in the past. And he also just had his first 100-yard reception season with 1,000 yards. And he's also the first in LSU history.
Yeah, no, that's a good player to shout here. I threw him in here as well because I saw Nick Saban said one of the biggest swings and misses he had at Alabama was on Mason Taylor and not recruiting him because he is one of the best tight ends he's ever seen, he said, play in college. So that's very high praise. And yeah, I mean, nobody's there in the New York Jets tight end room. So I think even though they spent was it a second round pick or a third round pick?
Third round pick.
Third round pick?
Sorry. I'm sorry. Second round pick
was
number
it?
10.
Yeah, right. Okay. So second round pick, I mean, yeah, you're probably expecting something, but I mean, at the end of the day, this tight end class wasn't spectacular. So I don't know if a lot of people are expecting a ton. So I would say the pressure isn't really there that much.
Yeah, no, I think he wasn't a guy I think that was high up on my draft board. And I do want to mention your guy real quick because I thought you would have had your other guy anyways. I thought you would have had Harold Fannin Jr.
I talked about too many Browns, so.
You had to leave one Brown out. You had him number 2. You did have him number 2.
Yeah, and I mean, like, this could come back to bite me in multiple ways, right? Of course, like the guys that I had being up there end up going to my team somehow. Yeah. Listen, I guess it's
a good draft for you.
Listen, I portray this like after the draft. Like we did this stuff a week prior. Like I got this stuff out, and it just happened to be that way. So that's why I was so happy about our draft, because I thought that we got a ton of value. Yes, I love Harold Fannin Jr., and I think he's going to be great in 2 tight end sets. But I don't want to continue to talk about my team because I just see the word bias, in bright blinking letters. But no, my guy was Tyler Warren. And again, for the same reason that JT was here. Of course, in my opinion, he's the best. Yeah, there it is. Of course, in my opinion, Tyler Warren was the best tight end in this draft. But, I mean, it was just a match made in heaven for Indianapolis. He's going to do everything there. I mean, they're going to run him in wildcat sets, and that's pretty good because usually you might think Anthony Richardson is going to be getting a lot of carries. Well, he's had a lot of injury history. So if you don't want, him to risk getting injured, throw Tyler Warren back there because he did it at Penn State. He's a guy that can go up and make big, contested catches over people. Drawing comparisons to Rob Gronkowski, I don't think I would go that far. But that's where his comparisons are at right now by a lot of draft analysts. So he is a guy that can kind of do it all. And I think it's a perfect fit for Indianapolis because they need a guy like that in that offense because it's pretty stagnant.
Yeah, I agree. Again, we had a lot of mocks having Tyler Warren go there, and at one point we just got sick of drafting him in Indianapolis, and sure enough, he ends up going to Indianapolis. So I think this was a good positional need that they needed. They addressed, and they addressed early, and I think this is a great landing spot. Fantasy value-wise, I will say Tyler Warren will probably be the number 1 tight end off the boards.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, that's a good NFL draft reactions, I must say. Good reactions, surprises, whatnot show. Again, if you haven't done so already, go to TrophySmack.com/SportsTimeHQ. Go get yourself that trophy, ring, or belt. Again, TrophySmack.com/SportsTimeHQ. And again, use that code SportsTimeHQ. They're going to match your first deposit up to $1,000. Can never go wrong with that. But again, gamble responsibly. Nope. Right, Gary?
Yes, sir.
Again, this was a great show. We're here every single week on Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern and Sundays at 12 p.m. Eastern time. Wednesday, we have our guest star coming on the show. You've seen him maybe a couple years ago, 2 years ago. It's Mr. Dave Kluge himself. He's a big Bears fan. We're going to dive into the Bears, but not only are we going to dive into Bears, we're going to talk some fantasy impact on these rookie players and what it means for fantasy season. It's fantasy season now, right? Draft is over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And pretty soon, Gary and I are going to be talking about 2026 prospects. But again, it's going to be a great time. Dave Kluge is always a great guest star to have on the show. Again, I was joined by my great co-host, Gary. Go follow him all over social media at GDPicks. I'm your host, Fernando, and we'll see you all on Wednesday.